It is 2:13 a.m. in the Appalachian woods.
Headed down to Hazel Green, Kentucky to investigate the Kentucky Wolfman.
We're talking like a 7 foot, 500 pound.
A grown man in camouflage is screaming at a tree. Another grown man is holding what appears to be a 40-pound medieval bear trap welded together by someone who just discovered Home Depot. Someone else yells, "This was my biggest beating," and runs into the darkness like he just heard the IRS whisper his name.
Bigfoot? We either got a wounded Bigfoot out here or a corpse. Hey, look here, we got blood!
And for a brief, glorious moment in 2013, this was peak television. This was Mountain Monsters, the show that promised us rugged men, real hunts, and creatures that may or may not have been allergic to appearing on camera. It wasn't polished, it wasn't subtle, it wasn't scientifically aligned with reality, but it worked because it knew what we wanted. We wanted yelling in the woods, shaky night vision, Bigfoot with a regional accent. When it premiered in June 2013, the network proudly framed it as a breakout hit, claiming record-setting numbers for a brand new original series.
We'll show him how we deal with big old bullies. Stupid! We'll snag your stone giant's big hairy ass right there.
And for a small cable channel, that mattered. It wasn't just another ghost hunting clone, it was louder, bigger, more mechanical trap energy. It felt raw, it felt chaotic, like 6 uncles who accidentally found a production crew. But somewhere between the screaming, the traps, and the documentary-style branding, something shifted. And the question isn't whether Mountain Monsters was ever real. The question is,
If we're not careful tonight and we corner this wounded beast, someone might get killed.
when did it stop pretending convincingly? Before the rogue team, before the Twitter beef, before jars labeled things that should never be labeled, there was a cable network looking for an identity crisis to solve. In 2013, Destination America was not exactly HBO. It was a channel trying to figure out what America meant in a post-Duck Dynasty world, and what screams America more than cryptids, camouflage, and men who introduced themselves as if they just stepped out of a county fair arm wrestling competition.
A lot of blood. This Stony John, he's wounded, and he's wounded bad. Right there's a bullet that shot Bigfoot.
Enter the A.I.M.S team, the Appalachian investigators of mysterious sightings, a name that sounds like it was brainstormed in a Bass Pro Shops parking lot. The pitch was simple: local West Virginia hunters investigating local legends, documentary style, boots on the ground, folklore meets firepower, and it hit.
Son of a bitch. What was that?
The June 22nd, 2013 premiere was framed as the network's best original series debut ever, with press materials proudly citing record-setting numbers and rapid renewal momentum. Season 2 was ordered almost immediately. The narrative was clear. This was a breakout hit. And honestly, it made sense. The format was weirdly brilliant.
Stonest giant. We're starting our Bigfoot quest back up, and some things never change.
Monster of the Week folklore, massive, almost cartoonish mechanical traps, night vision chaos, confessionals delivered with the intensity of a WWE promo. It wasn't polished paranormal investigation, it was backyard myth-busting with explosives energy. But here's the genius part. The cast felt like characters before they were personalities. You had the leader, the researcher, the security guy,
and we just keep getting more and more questions, but we are starting to fit pieces of this puzzle together too.
Yes, we are.
trap builder. It was practically Scooby-Doo if everyone had a concealed carry permit. And early coverage even emphasized their authenticity. Journalists meeting them expecting polished actors and instead describing them as regular outdoorsmen who simply understood what makes good television. That's the key. They weren't pretending not to be on TV. They were just pretending the monsters might show up.
Oh yeah.
When Jeff caught that guy on the thermal?
Yeah.
That was a lucky catch, I'm telling you.
Damn right.
And for a few seasons, that was enough. Here's the thing about documentary style. It's a beautiful phrase. It sounds serious. It sounds credible. It sounds like someone somewhere owns a clipboard. But it's also a magic trick, because once you say documentary style, you are making a promise. Not that you'll find Bigfoot, not that the monsters are real, but that the process, the investigation, is real. And that's where the cracks started forming. The first big public fracture didn't come from skeptics with lab coats.
Ground and get in the woods and see what we can dig up about this son of a bitch.
Yeah. Let's go get this Otney Jarhead.
It came from within the cryptid cinematic universe itself. April 5th, 2015. A tweet goes out accusing Mountain Monsters of being a scripted fictional show and claiming the guys are actors. Not subtle, not vague, just, hey, that thing you're watching? Fake. Now, in normal television land, this would be background noise. Reality TV gets called fake the way fast food gets called unhealthy. Everyone shrugs and keeps eating. But this was different, because Mountain Monsters wasn't selling glamour.
Harrison County, Ohio. A hunter named John.
I'm Trapper.
Trapper Johnny, good to meet you.
John's a deer hunter. He spends a lot of time in the woods.
It wasn't The Bachelor in the Woods, it was selling authenticity. Regional pride. We're just good old boys chasing what's out there. So when the scripted label went public and stayed public, it hit the show's soft underbelly. Trapper fired back weeks later, insisting he wasn't an actor and throwing shade in return.
Especially if we have a wounded Bigfoot. I believe he's hurt and he's hurt bad.
Suddenly, we didn't just have monster hunts, we had a paranormal proxy war on Twitter, and this feud didn't disappear. It resurfaced in 2017 with more hoax and fake show rhetoric circulating online. And here's where it gets interesting. The feud itself became content. Reddit threads exploded, YouTube comments turned into courtroom cross-examinations. Is it real? Became the meta plot. The show about hunting monsters was now being hunted by discourse, and Mountain Monsters responded in the most television way possible. It escalated.
He's gonna be cranky.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I work with old guys every day, and I swear they're all cranky.
Well, yeah.
Enter the Rogue Team. If the early seasons were Monster of the Week folklore, isolated hunts, local legends, chaotic traps, Season 5 introduced a narrative arc, a shadowy rival group, a long-running mythology, cliffhangers designed not just to tease the next episode, but to build a serialized storyline.
He took off. He went to the right. He went to the right.
Now, from a production standpoint, this makes sense. Serialized storytelling builds loyalty. It gives fans something to theorize about. It creates stakes. But from a documentary style standpoint, it's like adding a Marvel villain to a nature documentary. And viewers noticed. Coverage around Season 5 highlighted fan friction, with complaints that the show had become obviously scripted and drifted away from its chaotic hunt roots. Notice the phrasing, not "I can't believe Bigfoot isn't real." It was just get back to chasing fake monsters. That's the sweet spot they lost. Early Mountain Monsters had a wink, a mutual understanding. We all knew this was theatrical, but it felt improvisational. It felt messy in a way that felt alive. The Rogue Team arc felt written. And once the audience starts seeing the script, the magic trick fails. But wait, it gets deeper.
Out of there like a scalded dog, run down to the creek, and we didn't hear him after that. We thought he was dying, and then he took out of there.
Because 2016 was technically a peak. The Season 4 finale was framed as the #1 telecast ever for the network in multiple metrics. On paper, this was the high point. Rating strength, institutional validation, renewal energy. So how can something peak and collapse at the same time? Easy. When the spectacle overtakes the premise. The traps got bigger, the stakes got louder, and suddenly we weren't hunting monsters anymore. We were writing them. The tone shifted from we're investigating a legend to we're inside a paranormal soap opera. And then came 2019. The show moved networks, aligning itself with a channel that was aggressively leaning into paranormal branding. It was reframed as a cult classic entering a new home. That word, cult, it's a compliment, but it's also a warning. Cult shows survive on irony, loyalty, and inside jokes.
That left
Look at
hip
the
was-
mud all up against it.
Look at that. That's that red clay. He had his back up against it. He was sitting down right there.
They are sustained by fans who love them because they are ridiculous. Which brings us to the most human turning point of all, Trapper's death in December 2019. This wasn't scandal, it wasn't drama, it was real loss. And it exposed something fragile. Mountain Monsters wasn't just a format, it was built around a personality core, a leader figure, a myth within the myth. A tribute special followed. Legacy arcs were introduced, storylines framed around his unfinished missions. Emotionally, this deepened the show. Structurally, it destabilized it. Because now the narrative weight wasn't just, did we catch the creature? It was, can this show exist without its anchor? And by 2022, the numbers, at least in live cable terms, showed erosion. Episodes posted significantly lower ratings compared to earlier peaks. Now, yes, cable overall was declining. Streaming shifted everything. Context matters, but perception matters more.
Blood. This Stonish John, he's wounded, and he's wounded bad. Look up against the wall right there where he's sitting there.
Fans noticed the silence after the 2022 run. No clear continuation messaging, no definitive cancellation statement, just quiet. Enough that petitions later surfaced asking for clarity and revival. And here's the brutal irony. It didn't implode because of fraud. There was no legal scandal, no expose. It just drifted. Its collapse was death by genre drift, by leaning too hard into storyline, by fighting over authenticity instead of embracing absurdity, by becoming aware of itself. Once the show started defending whether it was real, it stopped being fun. The golden era worked because it didn't argue with you. It just ran into the woods screaming. And somewhere between the Twitter wars, the rogue team mythology, and the legacy arcs, it stopped screaming spontaneously. It started performing the scream. And that's when the forest got quiet. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Mountain monsters didn't die dramatically. It faded into algorithmic purgatory. By the time we reached the 2022 season run,
No way. That's that bullet.
live cable numbers were noticeably lower than the mid-2000s highs. Yes, cable overall was shrinking. Yes, streaming changed everything. But perception doesn't care about industry context. Perception sees 536,000 in 2016 and 265,000 in 2022 and says something left the building. And what left wasn't just viewers, it was unpredictability. Early mountain monsters felt chaotic. Men arguing over traps, screaming into darkness, a vibe that suggested at any moment someone might accidentally hunt their own cameraman. It was messy in a way that felt alive. Now it feels formatted. Cold open scare, research board, build trap, night vision chaos, cliffhanger, repeat. The irony is brutal. In trying to professionalize the chaos, the show removed the chaos. And once you remove chaos from 6 men chasing a mythical creature with medieval hardware,
We need to call the rest of the team and get him over here. We need to get after him and push him right towards that trap.
what exactly is left? Because the monsters never changed. The woods never changed. The premise never changed. But the tone did. The self-awareness became heavier. The mythology became denser. The post-trapper legacy framing turned hunts into ceremonial storytelling arcs. That might sound meaningful, but the original appeal was grown men yelling, "Let's get 'em," at a noise that was probably a raccoon. Online, the vibe shifted too. Instead of, "This is insane, I love it," the energy became ironic. Is this scripted now? Wait, there's a villain team? What are we even doing anymore? The show transitioned from appointment television to background noise you clip for TikTok because it's accidentally hilarious. Then came the silence. After the early 2022 episodes, there was no loud cancellation announcement, no dramatic goodbye, just a lack of official clarity. Enough that fans began circulating petitions asking whether the show was coming back at all. Nothing kills momentum like uncertainty. Not scandal, not controversy, not even declining ratings. Silence. Mountain Monsters didn't get canceled in a blaze of shame.
Son of a bitch.
What was that?
Gone!
What the hell was that?
It got ghosted. And for a show built on chasing things that may or may not exist, being haunted by your own network's quiet is almost poetic. Mountain Monsters was never really about monsters. It was about belief. Not belief in Bigfoot, not belief in a Wolfman, not belief in something growling behind a tree at 2:13 a.m. It was belief in the performance. In 2013, that performance worked because it felt reckless. The network framed it as a breakout success. The ratings climbed. The traps got bigger. The yelling got louder. It was messy and proud of it. It didn't over-explain. It didn't over-mythologize. It just ran into the woods like chaos had a camera crew, and we loved it for that. But then the show tried to become important. It tried to defend its authenticity. It tried to build a villain arc. It tried to become a lore-heavy paranormal saga instead of what it was at its best. 6 guys chasing folklore with the emotional stability of a haunted chainsaw.
And get him pushed down towards the track. What you guys got?
You ain't gonna believe this. I mean, you ought to see the blood up there.
The tragedy isn't that it was fake. The tragedy is that it forgot the audience was in on the joke. We didn't want proof. We didn't want realism. We wanted the scream. We wanted the trap snapping shut on absolutely nothing. We wanted someone dramatically declaring, "This changes everything," when it changed nothing. Can it be saved? Maybe. Cult shows have strange afterlives. Streaming resurrects stranger things than this. But if Mountain Monsters ever comes back, it has to remember what made it work. Stop arguing about whether it's real. Stop building cinematic universes.
I don't think he's coon hunting.
No.
No, that caliber gun, that's a big
Yes, it is.
That's a big gun.
Start running into the woods again. And if you hear something out there tonight, it's probably not Bigfoot. It's just television trying to figure out what it wants to be. Like, subscribe, and tell me which cryptid deserves a spinoff, because apparently that's where we are now.